Hey, thank you so much for tuning in and watching us, or tuning in on YouTube, Facebook, iTunes, Spotify. Thank you so much. Welcome back to the Day and Night Conversations podcast. All right. I'm your host today, Burgundy Nancy. What's up? I'm your girl for today. Woo! Okay, so yes. So we have a hot new topic today. Great conversation. From Thanksgiving actually into New Year's is the period of time where there's the most people who take the most flights. So watch out. Okay, know your rights. And today we're talking about our rights as passengers, because sometimes it can be a bit frustrating. All right, to take the plane, right? So we have our friend of the shows here today, a concerned citizen that can help you out a bit, Mr. Frantz. Welcome, Franz.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us and our audience about your experience and maybe what we can do about it. And we also have some new laws coming up and that have already been implemented in Canada for passengers. So we'll talk about that today. Flights, airlines, how to not get screwed over. Okay, let's delve into it. So hi Franz, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing very good.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
inviting me over.
Yes, of course. So a lot of stuff happened to you apparently in the summertime in August. So could you tell us a bit about your background, what happened, and your long journey to this table with us, with the conversation with our audience, day and night?
Sure, absolutely. So my name is Franz. I I live and work in Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
This summer, my wife and I'm from African origin, a West African country called Togo.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife is from mixed Haitian and Sri Lankan origins,
Okay.
which means she's never set foot in Africa.
Okay.
My children obviously are born here
Okay.
and never set foot in Africa, even though I will go every now and then.
Okay.
But traveling to Africa is like 2 times traveling to Europe, and including the cost or so. So you need to plan that pretty much many years in advance.
Really? Okay.
So this summer we did our first trip together.
The whole family?
The whole family.
Oh, that must have been nice.
Kids and wife. We went to Togo, then we went to Ghana.
Okay.
My wife had a chance to go see Elmina Castle, which was one of the main slave trade harbor.
Okay. History right there.
And we missed Samuel Lee Jackson by 1 day. He was shooting
Samuel?
a movie. Yeah.
Okay.
He was shooting a movie there.
Okay.
And probably you'll hear about the movie in a few months.
Okay.
And he just packed up and left when we came, so we
Okay.
missed it. Anyways, so that was pretty much the whole thing, and we went early August and returning mid-August.
Mm-hmm.
And on our way back, so generally in most of the African countries, what happens is that when you're flying out here in Canada, the 24 hours before the flight, you can check in online, right?
Yeah, of course.
In African countries, you don't have the ability to check in online.
Mm-hmm.
So if your flight is taking off in the evening, you go to the airport in the morning, you go check in.
So you have to be there physically.
Yeah, you don't need to. You can go in the evening, but if you go check in physically in the morning, then you have your day, and you come back in the evening and you just walk into the plane, right?
Okay.
So we did that. We checked in the morning, and then in the evening we came to the airport expecting to board a plane, and we saw our suitcases were outside. Like, what's going on here? It's like the flight is canceled. Okay, that I can understand. So what's the plan? We don't have a plan. Excuse me, the flight is canceled. I have to be in Canada tomorrow. I'm going back to work on Monday. You just tell me the flight is canceled. You don't have a plan. Who even does that? And say, well, you'll have to wait. It's the weekend, and the bosses in Brussels have to come back from their weekend and decide what to do. And that's when I lost it. I'm like, are you kidding me?
So you had to wait 48 hours before getting an answer?
Literally.
Wow.
So I told them, listen, it's not going to happen. You're going to put me in the flight tonight. Manage. Send me to Ghana. Send me to Accra, so I can take a British Airways flight to London, then from London, Montreal. Manage. Air France. They tried to send 15 people that night on the Air France flight. Air France was only able to take 2 people.
Wow.
And we're talking about high season. So the flights are booked, full. So Saturday night, we couldn't take off. Sunday morning, I came back to the airport at 9 a.m. I was the first one at the counter, harassed them, forced them to check me in. They checked in everybody who was supposed to fly on Friday, Saturday, Sunday evening. So I'm like, okay, so you can check in the people who last night we were not able to board, but you're checking in the people who can fly out tonight. So the Sunday people are more important than the Saturday people. Meanwhile, the Saturday people, you're telling them, well, you have to wait till the boss returns from weekend in Brussels.
Wow.
So that Sunday, while I was waiting and forcing them, pushing them, I was putting pressure on them. I called Brussels Airlines customer service here in Brussels, and I told the lady, this is nigger treatment. You cannot do this in Brussels. Not even on a small flight from Brussels to Paris. You cannot cancel an entire flight and tell people wait until the boss comes back from the weekend. It's just not even imaginable. Why would you do it here in Africa?
Harsh words, but very real. Yeah.
You know, and I said, listen, the business class is empty. Why don't you put people in the business class?
The business class was empty.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she said, it's not going to happen, sir. Literally, on the customer service, it's not going to happen. So Sunday at the end of the day, like by 1 p.m., they checked in, they closed the counter. Then I went back home. And then that's the moment where I was like, you know what? Now it's time to fight. So I posted this on Facebook. And I have a friend in Paris who's a lawyer. And she has a blog about these things on Facebook blog. And she contacted me. She said, this is what you're going to do. This is a Brussels Airlines flight. It's a EU flight, a European Union flight, a company. There is a law in European Union that says any flight that is a European Union company flying to or out of EU, when the flight is cancelled for any reason that is within the company's control. So reasons that are within the company's control are reasons that are not nature-based. Like it's
the
raining,
weather.
You know, who can control that? You know, there's a solar flare. Who can control things like that? But a plane is broken. You can rent another plane.
Yeah.
You know, yes, it's going to cost you money, but
you got to do what you got to do.
Solution. So any flight that you have to cancel within that kind of situation, you have 3 hours to inform the passengers of what's the plan and provide them a solution. Past 3 hours, you need to compensate them 600, depending on the distance of the flight. You need to compensate them. There's a scale of the amount, and the maximum is 600 euro per person. Okay, that's the rule now in Europe. And obviously,
that's not what they did.
That's not what they did. And obviously, most of people in Africa don't know this. You know,
of course.
You're at the airport and you realize people just accept the
reality.
It's like destiny
they just
for them.
Accept to be screwed over.
Yeah, exactly. So I asked her, what are you going to do? She said, you're going to write a letter to them, giving them 24 hours to compensate you based on this such rule, and then 24 hours to put you on a plane. Otherwise, you'll go to court. So that's what I did. On Monday morning, I went to Brussels Airlines office in Lomé, the capital city of Togo, and I took the letter to them and said, here's the letter, and I'm informing you that as of today, I'm suing you.
They're screwing with the wrong person, man.
Yeah. And you have 3 hours to give me a plan. This is past 48 hours, and you still can't give me a plan. I am suing you. And that Monday night, we were booked on a flight, business class. We were able to leave Togo. So that's the story.
All right. But as I understand, you're still in some type of legal battle with the Brussels airline, right?
Correct. Yeah. So when I got to their office, they said, listen, what we can do here in the office is that we cannot process complaints. We don't have the manpower and the authority to do so. There's a process. You have to go online and file the complaint. And but in the meantime, let's put you on tonight's flight. And once I got in Montreal, I went online and I filed a complaint. Same complaint that I gave them in the office. I sent it online. It was you just have to upload the file and file a complaint. A week later, I got a response from the customer service agent saying, unfortunately, the usual wording, unfortunate circumstances, blah, blah, blah. We offer you €600 per person as a compensation. Give us your bank account number. I gave them the bank account number. It's been almost a month now, and
they
haven't heard back from them.
Wow. So basically, know your rights. Like, no matter where you are in the world, wherever you're traveling, because again, this is the time of the year, October to January, where people travel a lot. You don't want to be in a different country and have no recourse.
Absolutely.
So it's great that you had a friend in Paris, but like,
how many people have friends who can give you
who are lawyers? Exactly. So no, there's always some type of recourse. So
correct.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. And it, I'm sure that, you're saying it all very PC, like very calmly. I'm like, I would be all over the place. Like, let's be honest. Like, you're like very, like, I'm sure you had some, like, you ruffled some feathers, and you probably almost got into a fight, or like probably used some strong language with people.
Yeah, I did use strong languages. This is nigger treatment, and obviously Togo is a country that is being ruled by some special regime. This is not a place to do politics, but it's not the best regimes that you can expect in Africa. And you have when you're in the airport, you have a huge TV screen. They were running the same thing about the government, the president, how they're trying to bolster business environment in Togo. And then, I was looking at that and I'm like, then at some point I said it out loud in front of the police. Are you kidding me? So I've been here at this airport 2 days. I haven't seen any government official. This is what you call doing business in Togo? Who's going to want to do business in a country where an airline can put the passengers on the ground for 2 days without giving them a plan?
Yeah.
And nobody in the country is saying a word.
Yeah.
But when it comes to preventing an opponent to take a flight from Paris back to Togo, they give orders and the companies abide. I said it. At some point, people have to start saying things. And is there a risk that I would get arrested? Maybe, but who cares?
Arrested in Togo for saying that to police officers?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're in Africa here. And,
okay.
It's a different.
It's a different environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it got to a point where you just have to stop accepting to be ill-treated. There are rights. Brussels Airlines didn't sell me the tickets on a discount base or on a monthly payment base. It's like an accordé payment.
Yeah.
I have to work my ass off to pay this,
and it's not a cheap flight either.
No.
It's probably like 2,000-3,000 or something.
Correct.
Crazy per person.
An average 2,000 per person, and we were 4. So do the math.
Yeah.
Then on top of that, you have to pay for your living. Your time
you have to stay there. Yeah, the hotel and everything.
Correct.
So €600 is like.
It's nothing. It's nothing. It doesn't change the fact that I lost 1 day of work here. I work in a pharma company, and I'm a contractual. So if I don't work, I don't get paid that day. So I lost the money. That day. That
never
day
coming
pay.
back.
And other impacts. You see. So it's frustrating. But the most frustrating thing is when this happens and there's no communication from the company saying, we understand, we know this is happening, this is what we're going to do. And then you hear that they can't reach their boss.
That's not an answer.
That's not an answer.
And why should the boss be involved? It should be procedure. Like if X happens, go to B, and then
Correct.
If C happens, go to Y, and it should be like.
Correct.
It shouldn't be like I need to talk to my boss it's like an international company. Why do you need the CEO's permission to do
what you could keep in mind? And I'm telling you this, not that I knew at the time. I discovered it as I was going through it. What you should keep in mind with these European companies in Africa is that They operate as their ground personnel in Africa, who are obviously Africans, have no decision power. The decision center is in a European capital. Okay, Air France, the decision power is in Paris. Brussels Airlines, the decision power is in Brussels. If anything happens on the ground, they have to call Paris or Brussels or London. Contrary to them, Ethiopian Airlines, and I know this because I have a friend at Ethiopian Airlines who, while we were going through this, was also telling me this is absolutely not normal. And this is what, like you mentioned, there is a procedure. If this happens, if A happens, you do C. If B happens, you do D, right? She said, this is how they should be handling it. And what I discovered is that, number one, when things like that happen after 3 or 4 hours, Ethiopian Airlines put the people in a hotel and pays them right on the spot. Okay?
That would be nice.
Correct. And then Ethiopian Airlines, in this particular scenario, at a high season, will send a flight from Addis Ababa, an empty flight from Addis Ababa to wherever the Ethiopian Airlines can pick up people from, so that they can dispatch them regularly. So at least, at most, 24 hours wait.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to be in Canada. I mean, Canadian Airlines, we have our issues, I mean, for sure. But, you know that for the audience who are listening, there is a new slew of protections and laws that just got implemented July 15, and it's a 2-phase. So the first phase is July 15th that already was implemented, and the second phase is December 15th that is going to be applied. And there's a lot of good stuff that is going to be in there. And the first thing is something that you said is about communication. Like, if something wrong is happening, okay, but don't let it be a surprise and not tell me what's happening and no updates. At least let me know in advance, right?
Yes, correct.
And what and so one of the new rules is, you know, to have clear, audible announcements, visible announcements, and also, like, when you book a ticket now, it also says, oh, do you want to be contacted by email or through SMS or something like that? So if there's any changes with the flights or anything, they have to tell you now.
Correct.
That's with Canada. So yeah,
they kind of all do it. So I happen to fly often.
To fly a lot.
And
internationally.
Even in Canada or Canada, US, they kind of all do it to a certain extent. And what I would say is the way they respect the laws in northern countries and Western countries is very different from the way they apply and respect the same laws when it comes to them doing business with southern countries. So for people who are traveling to countries like Cuba, Mexico, Venezuela, well, maybe not Venezuela, they have a crisis there, Brazil, you know, Colombia, African countries, and even in African countries, it depends on the countries, you know, and I'll tell you later why. And so when you're going to countries like that, where these Western companies behave like if they come to just make money and leave.
And disregard what's happening at that point, yeah.
Correct.
But like the new laws that are implemented by, it's called the Canadian Transportation Association. By the way, we'll have a link. So if they also have a great platform for you to put any complaint down in there. A lot of information on every scenario. If something happens to you, to your luggage, anything, it's all written there. What recourse you have as a consumer, which is very important, right? And so what the CTA regulates is, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, it happens sometimes. They regulate the announcements. They regulate overbooking. They regulate their lost luggage. Correct. They regulate even something as simple as like sitting next to your children.
Correct.
You know, so it's and it's to and from. That's what I want to say. It's to and from Canada.
Correct.
So even if you're flying on an airline that is not Air Canada or something like that, from like China to Canada, the regulations apply to that flight too, even if it's a Chinese Airlines.
Correct.
So it's important to like know your rights, even if you're in another country. If you're coming to Canada, they're under the same rules. Okay. So yeah.
That's true.
So we
And
need more like Togo Canadian flights. That's what we need more of.
if there are enough, if there are enough people to board the plane.
Yeah,
But you know,
yeah.
it's I discovered this the Americans are putting down a similar law, and they're all doing it now because of the EU. It's called EC 261. If you want to check the EU law, so whenever you're flying to Europe with any European aircraft or European company, what the law that applies to them is called EC 261. Sorry, and pretty much the law says exactly the same thing as the Canadian one that is coming is saying.
Yeah.
The Americans are doing something similar, and it's about protecting, of course, the consumers as well. You know, but there is a but to this
There's a
kind of
but,
law.
people.
Yeah.
Watch out.
So the thing is with these laws is when you have like the one in Canada is saying to and from, right?
Yeah, it's-
regardless of if it's a Canadian company
Yeah.
or a non-Canadian company.
Exactly. To and from.
If you have Air China Airways, or I think it's Air China, they call them, flying from Shanghai to Montreal
Yeah.
and does something similar,
Yeah.
how are you going to sue China Airways in Canada?
You do a complaint with the CTA.
Correct.
And on the CTA, it has a list of all the airlines, and they even have the Brussels Airlines on the CTA,
Correct.
those website to do a complaint.
Correct.
So you can go through them as well.
So these laws will apply if and when Canada has an agreement, a legal agreement with the country. Like in the case of Brussels Airlines, the CTA has a power of authority because Canada has an agreement with European Union with regards to this.
Okay.
Okay, so it's important for people when they're dealing with this or when they're kind of facing situations like this to first look into if there is anything the CTA can do for them in that kind of scenario. Okay. Also, it's also good to Google these companies. How often does this happen, and how do they deal with it? What are my options when this happens? And I'm saying this because Brussels Airlines, when I posted this on Facebook, we have friends in London who one of them works in a British international organization around the world, and she called us in Togo, said, this is a reason why their organization never fly, when it comes to sending people to West Africa, this is just West Africa, not the rest of Africa. West Africa, they never fly their personnel Brussels Airlines.
Okay, because they already
They
know
have a
they
reputation.
have reputation. So
Correct.
when you hear that, people, it's a day and night conversation. It's getting real serious. When you're booking your flights to wherever you want to go, when
Google
you're
the topic.
going down south for the winter time or visiting families in another country, it's very important to look up who you're dealing with.
Correct.
What happens when your flight gets delayed? Because now there's money involved. Okay, so get your money. Okay, you can say, okay, it's been exactly 3 hours and 1 minute now. I am entitled to $200, please, because that's exactly what they need to do. And that's one of the new laws too, that they have to be more transparent and more forthcoming of what happens if ABC. The situation A happens, C happens.
Correct.
Like, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. That's very important. Knowledge is everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I was telling you about, depending on which countries, African countries, they don't do this in all African countries. So some African countries that the governments operate as if we're in a Western country.
South Africa, for example?
South Africa is an easy example.
Yeah.
Ghana, for instance. You see? Ghana is just right next to Togo, but it's a day and night. You see? And in this situation, very same situation, while Saturday night we could not fly out of Togo because the flight was doing Lomé, Accra, then Brussels. So they have a quota. They'll take 100 people in Lomé, 200 in Accra, then they'll fly 300 people to Brussels. And from Brussels, these people will dispatch around the world, right? And Saturday night, the people in Accra couldn't board as well. Fine. Sunday night, while I was fighting for them to board me on Sunday night, and they refused in Togo, in Ghana, they boarded the people from Saturday. on Sunday.
So there's like different priorities
Correct.
depending on where you're.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the reason is because of the government that is in that country, in the political environment.
Yeah.
You see, the personnel in Accra felt that it was the right thing to do, to board the people that couldn't board on Saturday, to board them on Sunday, and then they played a little sneaky though. The quota that was supposed to go for Togo, they took it.
Okay.
So 60% of the people who were supposed to board on Sunday in Togo couldn't board because the Ghanaians boarded them in, and they locked the system.
So someone does have power.
Someone,
because you say
someone
it's all in Brussels, but it's not all in Brussels. Someone is making decisions down there too.
Yeah, it's not kosher. It's not kosher. But they did it. And if the boss comes on Monday and wants to blame them, do you think he can do that? Where were you, would the government say?
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So someone dared to make it to decide that I'm going to take care of my passengers in Ghana. They will board the plane tonight. If the Togolese people don't care, that's their problem. And if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. And they did it. You see? And I don't know how this whole thing turned afterwards because it's a high season. So Saturday people couldn't board. Sunday people, only half of them were able to board because the Ghanaian locked the system, overbooked their side of quota. Monday, when we were leaving, same situation. There was the overflow of the Saturday plus the overflow of the Sunday.
It's a circle.
It's spiraling.
I think it's a calculated risk. It's like why do airlines overbook? It's a calculated risk. Some people are not going to be there, so other people are going to be there instead. And on one seat, there's like two people who played for the same seat, so they're making money. It's a profit.
Here, yes. In the Western countries, yes. Not there because you don't have many options. So here, it's a calculated risk. When you have, say you have 10 seats and you book 20 seats, okay? And you're flying Montreal, New York on Air Canada. How many companies fly Montreal, New York within the same time frame? There's United, there's Delta, there's Continental, there's US Airways. There's so many options that if you end up having the 20 people showing up, you can always offer them a voucher for something else, or you can send them to US Airways.
But it's a calculated risk in the sense that like they think that the people from Ghana are maybe they're going to complain less, or maybe the political structure there is not going to lean on them as hard as like one government is going to be more strict about like the airline rules compared to the other one. So it's a calculated risk in that way.
Absolutely.
You know, so they're like, how many people are in Togo are going to like really, really sue me?
Correct.
Like, they know like the level of contacts or education or I don't know what, but they know that,
I think it has to do a lot with education, and I'm not sure if it's their willingness to sue them, but I think it's awareness that it is possible. Imagine, I didn't know until my friend told me I could do this, and the moment I knew, I did it, right? And I think at the end of the day, we just need to educate people.
Yeah.
Make sure they know what are their options.
All right. So people, you can sue. You can sue and you can get some money, okay? So if you're waiting too long, or if your luggage is not there on time, or they lost your luggage, or if your kid is sitting 5 rows away from you, because you can actually make a formal complaint about all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And get some money out of it, get some type of compensation, because, I mean, everybody has a bad airline story. Everybody. I'm sure that's not the only one. Maybe that's the most dramatic one, but like everybody has a bad. Yeah.
And having an airline story is not a dramatic stuff because at the end of the day, we need to keep in mind these are mechanical engines, right? Things can happen.
Yeah.
It's not things can happen that is the problem. It's once things happen, what do you do? I have not been respected as a customer. The risk for me has not been considered by the company, and the impacts this had on me has not been considered as well.
Yeah.
You know,
I feel like airlines are just getting greedier and greedier. Like, I know that it's a company, and so they have to make money, and they have to make more money every year for their investors and stuff like that. But I feel like when I was a kid and I took the airline, like, I had a free meal, I had a lot of space, maybe because I was smaller, but I feel like I had a lot of space, and I could like have 2 luggage. And it was free for the luggage. I didn't need to check in. When I checked in, it was with a person who has said hello to me. And like recently, I went to Alberta, and it was like, what's happening? I'm like an old woman. Like, I don't like technology that much, and they're like, everything is self-serve. Like, you have to bring your luggage in, and you have to check it in by yourself with like the machine, and you have to put in your passport. And I was like, can I speak to someone? Can someone, like, I have to like I'm like I don't know. I like someone taking my luggage, but now I have to like lug it and like put it on the thing so it gets scanned, and I have to do it by myself, and it's like, and there's no free food. What happened to the food?
Yeah.
Like, you get maybe a little cracker or something if you take like a 3-hour flight, but unless you take like a transatlantic flight, there's no food included. There's not even, maybe now they still have pillows, right? They still have pillows, and they still have the covers. But I feel like we're gonna have to pay.
Some of them are selling you even headsets to listen to the music or to watch a movie. But you see what you're bringing forward there is a very North American thing, eh? Because when you go to Europe and you're flying, say, Brussels to Frankfurt, for instance, it's just as short of a flight as Montreal to New York, literally.
Well, and you don't need to pay for all that stuff?
No.
In those...
Yeah. You see, it's based on the market.
Okay.
It's based on the market.
So we're less demanding? Americans are less... the Americas are less demanding than the EU? Or are we...
I think it's more touchy. It's more touchy. I'm not sure I can dare to speak about that on the radio.
Okay.
But
or maybe. Oh yeah.
Think about it as more European mentality versus North American mentality. Okay, when you go to Europe, okay, I'm trying to approach the topic just to give people an idea.
Okay.
Without touching it.
Okay.
So when you go to Europe, the first thing you notice is it's a luxurious environment. Okay. It's more luxurious than North America. Okay. And expectation about service is very different. And North America is very practical. It's a very practical lifestyle. We have a very practical lifestyle here. Say North America, if you manage to have a bachelor degree in university, that's cute.
It's cute.
It's cute as long as you can work. As long as you work, right?
Okay.
Maybe not for our generation, but like 20 years ago in North America, if you manage to have a bachelor degree in university, it's cute. In Europe, you have to manage to have a master's degree. Then people will start looking at you like, oh, okay, you're worth something.
Okay.
It's a very different environment.
Okay.
So the expectation, the market expects. The market's expectation of quality is very different. You will notice as well when you look at the ads, cars, for instance. When you listen to Mercedes-Benz car ads on the radio or on TV.
Okay.
They're selling you European experience, European this, European that.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it reflects in their service in their airline companies. Even in the train, you have access to food. In the train, you pay, obviously, but it's much cheaper than when you take Via Rail here from Montreal to Vancouver. But that's the difference. Mainly, I'm not sure if it's because they cannot make money if they keep doing giving the service. They just happen to be able to make money in North America by not doing it.
I don't know. I think it's just about like calculating the risk. Like, I feel like, okay, am I still gonna be able to sell these tickets even if I don't include a meal?
Correct.
Yes. Okay, so I'm not gonna include a meal. I save like $2 million a year. Like, and like even like the space for for
The leg room.
the leg room, like
Yeah.
it's like they're putting more and more seats, so you have less and less
Correct.
leg room.
Yeah.
I'm a tall girl, man. I'm tall. Like I'm sitting down here, people, but I'm 5'11". Okay, so it's not cool.
You should pay for exit rows.
Yeah, but why? Why though? Like it's not fair. It's not fair.
Well, you pay for having more space.
Yeah, but like we're tall. We're tall people. Like when I take Air China Airlines, like because I used to live in China, and I didn't have the airlines. They're not smaller. Like the seats are not smaller. Like over there. Even
The
though
Asians.
a lot of like Asians are typically very short.
Yeah.
This in the southern
Yeah.
part of China where I lived for a long time, everybody was like shorter than me. So
Correct.
and the planes were not smaller.
The Asian companies are a different story. They give you much more space, much more service, and it's sometimes you wonder how they still manage to make money by offering like their service. Like if you want to rank them, it's Asian, European, North Americans.
I'm sorry, but for me, the best airline was Qatar.
Qatar.
I didn't leave the airport. I would not. I don't believe in their. I don't believe in their government and how they do their stuff. But like the airline, the service in Qatar for the Qatar airline was crazy. Like the way they dress, the food, the presentation is. So like,
it's like a dream. It's like a dream.
Yeah,
literally.
and I was not like business class
Yeah,
or anything.
yeah,
Like okay. It seems like you've flown in every airline. Could you tell us more about like where do you fly? Where have you been? Like what's happening? You have like a different perspective on every airline. I'm like, where have you been?
Well, I've been lucky. Well, yeah. I'm a third culture kid.
You're a what?
A third culture kid. You know what's a third culture kid?
A third.
A third. Yeah. Sorry, my accent.
Culture.
A third
culture kid. Okay.
So a third culture kid is somebody
okay.
that you cannot identify to because of his skin color.
Okay.
So say I'm Franz. I was born in Togo, but I grew up in Kenya, completely on the other side of Africa, which means day and night when it comes to culture.
Okay.
But while I was growing up in Kenya, I was going to a French school.
Okay.
So my friends in my neighborhood were English, were speaking English. I was educated as a French from France.
Okay.
Then I left Kenya. I came back to West Africa, but down in Togo, in Benin, when I did my A-level in a private school, elite private school in Benin. Then I left, went to France for a while, then immigrated to Canada. In between, I did a few countries here and there.
So you went to China, you went to Asia.
I went to Asia, mostly in the Middle East. Okay. And so I got to experience the Asian companies a lot as well.
Okay.
And Canada is my first country where I've spent more than 5 years in a row.
Wow. Okay.
So,
so our airlines are like at the bottom? You said that
North American airlines are literally at the bottom. Yeah,
Wow.
in terms of experience and service.
Wow. Okay.
You wouldn't see it unless you travel the other airlines.
Okay.
So once you experience the other airlines and you come to North America, you're like,
what's happening?
this is a lower standard.
Okay. Well, I mean, at least now we have laws to protect us, and we have recourses. We'll have a link in the description on YouTube for where you can make formal complaints, but also learn what can you do if something happens, because that's when you plan out a trip, you have to plan out every single situation too, right?
Mm-hmm,
again, what happens if your luggage is lost? What happens if your flight is delayed or canceled? You need to have different scenarios just to make sure you're covered, right?
Absolutely. And people need to know everything is online, And sometimes just take the time to just mention it on Facebook. Somebody knows somebody who knows about the topic, and they will put you in touch with somebody. But Canada is coming up with regulations about it. EU is way in advance on this already. So Google the EU regulations, at least to have an idea of the scope of things you can do, of the scope of things you can claim, so that when the Canadian regulation takes place, I believe soon, by the end of this year, you're well aware of it. And if you're traveling, make sure at the end of the day, just maybe the lesson for me is to make sure I plan one day, like
a buffer day.
A buffer day. I was coming back on Sunday afternoon, going back to work on Monday.
It's a lot, especially for when you're different time zones. Yeah. It's a different continent. Like you gotta have some buffer.
Yeah.
But also look up I never thought about it, but I always check for just like the cheapest or the best price or the non-stop flights. Yeah. But don't just check for nonstop or cheapest or great. Like check as well what reviews for the companies that you're taking, especially when you're taking more than one plane. If you're going outside the country, like Google like what's happening with that airline and what are their reviews for that specific country, right?
Right, absolutely. Yeah. And just the reputation. Generally speaking, when you review the reputation of an airline, you will hear about stories, and through the stories, you'll know what happened in such countries, such and such countries. It will give you an idea how to deal with such a problem in wherever you're going, and also maybe, price sensitivity. Maybe $100 difference on an air flight, on an airfare is
for security
is major for some people. But think about it. Maybe for $100 more, fly. We're still radio. We are not allowed to name companies, right? So fly company A instead of company B.
Yeah, for your state of mind, like just for the peace of mind.
Correct.
Just peace of mind. Just like look that up,
Correct.
So just be aware of that, and like fun fact, the first flight that was ever flown in Canada was in 1909 in Nova Scotia. That was the first ever airplane to ever take flight ever. So that means that before 1909, we were taking cars. Yes, we were taking cars. We were boats. Horses, cows. Like we were by foot. Like we were like people didn't travel that much. So it's only been like a bit over 100 years. Like that's like one person and a half. Like
that's not long at all.
It's not long at all in the history of humanities. So it's only been a bit over 100 years that like planes have existed, and there's been laws and regulations that like come up all the time. At first, now like you can take a plane and you're not gonna die.
Absolutely. It's the safest actually means of travel.
Safer than trains.
Safer than anything on the earth.
Well, for sure, safer than cars, and we go in a car every day. Yeah. So safer than trains, cars. So planes are great, and they've completely changed our lives. But the regulations have to follow with the evolution of the technology and how people live their lives. Absolutely. And expectations for consumers.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
And consumer awareness is what will make the change happen.
Yeah.
Consumer awareness.
Of course, because they're not going to be like airlines are not going to implement rules that will make them lose money. Exactly. It's like, oh yeah, if you wait 3 hours, I have to give you $200. Like, no. Why would an airline implement that? It has to come from people, from the governments, and from people pressuring the government. Yep. Especially like there's been a lot of huge stories about people let's say staying in airplanes on the tarmacs for hours on end.
Yep.
I couldn't imagine that. Like that's crazy that you would be like locked in an airplane for hours, and then they're like, okay, well, after 6 hours, actually our flight is not going to leave. You can go back in. It's like, but why did you keep them for 6 hours in the plane? And it's not powered. The plane is not powered. You can just send them
out to wait in the airport.
Yeah, there's no AC, there's no lights sometimes. It's crazy, these stories sometimes that you hear.
You think it's that crazy? Actually, I was complaining about my situation. I still managed to go back and sleep in an air-conditioned room after, right?
Yeah.
Imagine the people in Brussels, because the flight has to leave Brussels, come to Ghana, and then to Togo. people in Brussels never took off from Brussels. And what happened is that they put them in the plane for 3 hours. And after 3 hours, they told them they have to get out of the plane.
Wow.
Like, literally.
That's and yeah, as I said, like a plane is not a fun place to be when there's no electricity. There's no.
There are kids.
Yeah.
You know, it's peak season. It's like the plane is full.
Full. Yeah.
You know? They could just let them out in the waiting area in the airport until they figure out what's going on with the plane.
Yeah, but the new laws address that too. Yeah. Like the new laws, I believe, that are going to be implemented by the CTA, the Canadian Transport Association. I believe it's like 3 hours, and after that you have to bring them back. Yeah. Bring them back. So know your rights, man, because you don't want to be. Or else they're just going to take advantage of you. Any big company is going to take advantage of their consumers if they don't fight back.
Correct. And it's important to fight back. You know, I understand some people, you know, since I came, every time I tell this story to people, oh, you're fighting for 600 euro. What's the value of your hourly? What's your hourly rate? You know, at the end of the day, are you sure that it's worth it? I'm like, yeah, of course, 600 euro. Maybe for me and my wife and the kids, maybe it will pay 1 month of mortgage for me. You know, at the end of the day. But it's not about that. It's about making sure, and that's the reason why I'm here. I want to make people understand they have rights. And the more people claim this, and like you said, you know, it's a risk analysis. How many people are going to claim it? See?
True. Yeah.
If this is just Franz claiming 600 euro times 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a big deal for a multinational $1 million, $1 billion generating company.
You know, but imagine that was 300 people on that flight, on that Saturday, August 17th flight. Imagine out of 300, let's just play risk as well, 50%. So 150 people complain. So that's 600 euro times 150. Do the math. I'm not sure how much.
It's a lot of money. It's more money.
Let's round it to 100 people.
Yeah.
So that's like what, 60,000 euro?
It's
starting to be visible.
Yeah.
You know, in a balance sheet, like 60,000 euro for complaint. Like, you can't do anything. If you put them in a hotel, you know,
it's less than 60,000.
You might spend less than that.
For sure.
You know, so
for sure.
For them, for their own risk analysis, the more people complain, then the more they will have to find a solution not to lose that money.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. And just in general, like, complaining is not bad. It's you know, some people think, oh, I don't want to spend my time, and I'm not a bad person. I don't want to complain about something. I just want to be polite. Sometimes you need to let those companies know what they're doing.
Correct.
So they can readjust.
Correct.
You know, and in the long run, it pays off for you, and it will pay off for them as well, because you're kind of forcing them to give a better service, and which will force them to be a better airline, which will eventually make them have more customers in some. You know,
that's literally,
you know, it's
literally how it happens.
Yeah. So you're kind of, it's in the end, it's and it goes for everything. Like, I went to like a spa, and then I sent, like, whenever you go to these types of spas, they always ask you by email, oh, what did you think? And I said, oh, this was good, and you know, this was not bad, and then they gave me $100 gift certificate. So I mean, that was nice.
Absolutely.
But in the long run, you got to make your voice heard, and you know. Thank you very much for coming to talk to our audience, our great audience who might be traveling over the course of the next few months. Know your rights. Thank you, Franz, for advocating for us. You know, other people who are going to go to Brussels, not Brussels, to South Africa.
To wherever they want to go to. Wherever you want to go to, just know your rights. Make sure you know your rights, and don't be lazy about filing a complaint.
Yeah.
Do it. It's going to take you 30 minutes online or whatever means they allow you. It's going to take you an hour.
Yeah.
What's an hour?
Yeah.
Do it so that you make sure people are aware and these companies know that we're keeping them on check now.
Yeah. Well, thank you for fighting the good fight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for talking to us about your experience, and you know, I hope you get that money. I hope you get even more of that money. What do you say, audience? I think you deserve more. I think you deserve. All right, so yeah, let's keep the conversation going. People, leave us comments on your airline, you know, mishaps, on your stories, what happened to you, what recourse you took. We would love to hear about your comments in the comment section on YouTube, or else you can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, follow us on Facebook, let us know what's happening in your lives. All right. So this is your girl, Burgundy Nancy with Frantz. All right. We do a day and night and day and night. Yeah, Frantz got some moves. And day.